Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing. We practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amurga Vairochana Mahamudra Mani Padma Jivala Vavartaya
Please stand and join me in chanting the three refuges. We will take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, first in Sino-Korean and then in English. So please throw your voice in as best you can. I go for refuge to the Buddha
I go for refuge to the Buddha,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment,
and realize the great way.
and realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma
I go for refuge to the Dharma,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings
I will penetrate the teachings
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
and uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha,
and resolve with all beings.
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many,
and transform this world into Buddha land unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please be seated for another brief period of meditation. Please join me in some stretching. Please let's stand while we offer the unity candle. So this candle represents peace and harmony throughout the world. Now let's make 3 vows. And the first vow, opening Buddha's mind, opening Buddha's heart, opening Buddha's hand. And now please second one quickly. How's my volume? Okay, good. So welcome to 2024, everyone, and to the lovely little dusting of snow that we had this morning. I hope that you enjoyed your holidays and are now sort of ready to get back into daily life or routines, whatever that is for you. I notice on our altar we have two baskets. One of them contains intentions that were written during our New Year's Eve service, and the other contains resolutions written during New Year's Day service. And so we like to keep these on our altar as a reminder of our commitments for the coming year. I was in Chicago during this time leading their year-end retreat and their year-end services. So really it's kind of an auspicious time of year for us, with, sort of the deep, dark days of winter solstice, followed by these lights of wisdom that we cultivate in ourselves. Our next event is going to, in the Buddhist calendar, is going to be Buddha's Enlightenment Sitting, which will occur on the 19th and 20th. So we begin at 8 p.m. on the 19th, and then we sit through the night until 4 a.m. And for those who are still with us at 4 a.m., we go outside and look for the morning star and enjoy delicious gruel together. It's a delicious kind of porridge that we do. And so this service, I want to talk a little bit about the service and also about the topic of enlightenment today, because that's what this is all about. It's one of the most auspicious days in the Buddhist calendar. So the Enlightenment Sitting is broken into 3 periods, which we call 3 watches of the night. And so the first is from 8 to 10, the second from 10 to midnight, and the third from midnight to 4 a.m. So during these 3 watches that we commemorate, the first is to remember that during his enlightenment experience, the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni, had this vision of all of his previous lives, previous births. And then during the second watch of the night, he had a vision of sort of the birth of all beings and their interconnection. And then the third watch was this vision of how attachments were to be cut off. So it was during this third watch of the night that the basic Buddhist path as we know it was born. So the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path came during this third watch. So there's a backstory to this, though. The Buddha didn't just sit down one day and say, I'm going to be enlightened, and it happened. It was a very long journey for him that began at the age of 29. So at the age of 29, he grew up, he was a prince in a very sort of had a spoiled lifestyle. He was coddled to by his parents and subjects of the kingdom and all of this. And so he was very protected, didn't get outside the walls of the palace until one day he went out and he encountered an old man, first an old man, and then a sick man, and then a dead man. things that he had never encountered before. This was his first experience with suffering. So he was very disturbed, and he began to ask these deep, troubling kinds of questions. What is this suffering all about? And is there a way to end the suffering? So ultimately, he decided then to leave palace life, to go out into the world seeking these answers. And so he cuts off his hair, gets on his horse, and rides off. He encountered then two key teachers who were known for their vision and their wisdom. He studied with them and soon became their equal and surpassed them. Still was not satisfied that he had found the answer. So he went then with a group of ascetic wanderers, doing various practices over the course of 6 years, based on, well, how do I separate mind and body? And so he did extreme things like in the heat of the day, he would stand between two fires and get the heat of both fires coming at him. He stood on one leg for hours. He put out one arm for hours. He stopped eating, essentially, went on this huge fast that was first 1,000 sesame seeds a day, then 100, then 10, and then only one sesame seed a day. And then at the end of these austerities, he realized that, well, his body's withering away. He's likely to die before he's going to realize the end of suffering or get to enlightenment. And so at that point, as if by magic, a maiden appeared with a bowl of rice milk, and he took that nourishment and then went to sit under the Bodhi tree in deep contemplation. So this is where I'm going to read a little bit about this story. So this is while under the Bodhi tree, and this brings to life the 3 watches that I talked about a bit. So sitting under the Bodhi tree, these are the words of the Buddha translated into English. When my mind was thus concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, malleable, really steady, and attained to imperturbed reality, I directed it to knowledge of the recollection of past lives. I recollected my manifold past lives. That is 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, 4 births, 5 births, 10 births, 20 births, up to 1,000 births, 100,000 births, many eons of world concentration. So that is what happened during the first watch of the night. And it ends with, this was the first true knowledge attained by me in the first watch of the night. Ignorance was banished and true knowledge arose. Darkness was banished and light arose, as happens in one who dwells, diligent, ardent, and resolute. But such a pleasant feeling that arose in me did not invade my mind and remain. So then during the second watch of the night, when my mind was thus concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfection, malleable, wielding, steady, and attained to imperturbed reality, I attained it to the knowledge of passing away and rebirth of beings. This was the second true knowledge attained by me in the middle watch of the night. Ignorance was banished, and true knowledge arose. Darkness was banished, and light arose, as happens in one who dwells, diligent, ardent, and resolute. And then the third watch of the night, When my mind was thus concentrated, purified, bright, unblemished, rid of perfection, and so on, I directed it to knowledge of the destruction of the taints. I directly knew as it actually is, this is suffering. This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. So those are the four noble truths. So, I mean, this is all very interesting from a historical point of view, but what does enlightenment mean to us in everyday life? And it's a big part of our Buddhist practice, but we don't talk about it very much, maybe because it's so difficult to really talk about and understand. So one thing you could do is come to our enlightenment sitting, and I've done this for many years, come to this enlightenment sitting. And my experience of it is I do it as an expression of gratitude to the Buddha, what the Buddha went through in order to discover this path that is so beneficial to us. But my actual experience is it's more one of endurance rather than profound enlightenment. I've not yet met anybody who said they went to the enlightenment sitting and got enlightened. But maybe that will be you. You never know. You can come and try it. And I do appreciate, as we said in the morning bell chant, sitting still in vital silence. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence. And just having that experience of sitting together throughout the night. There's something about this deep, soft darkness and sitting together that's really very special. So, you come to the enlightenment sitting, but then this question comes up. Again, let's go back to in everyday life, what does it mean? And I read a very interesting article this week by Jack Kornfield. It was written way back in 2010. Jack Kornfield is a very accomplished Buddhist teacher. He teaches at Spirit Rock in California. And he has studied in many, many traditions. And what he said was, we probably should not stop talking about enlightenment in the singular and talk about enlightenment plural, because there are many different expressions of enlightenment. And there are many different practices that we do in support of this awakening. So if we think of the practices, we're going to do three main groupings: Shila, Samadhi, and Prajna. Shila, as you recall, is practice of morality and precepts. So we have 5 main precepts: not to harm, but to cherish all life. It's the first one. And then the second grouping is Samadhi, which is our concentration practices, our sitting meditation, our mindfulness practices, our right effort in pursuing these practices. And then the third group is Prajna, or wisdom, which is this right view and right intention. So these practices you can think of as he called them gateways to awakening. And then he also talked about expressions of enlightenment. And for this, he was referencing various well-known teachers and saying, well, if you want to know what enlightenment looks like and feels like, maybe look at those teachers. And here were his examples. Depa Ma, Amamichi, these are hugging gurus. So they express enlightenment as love. And this comes more, I think, from Hindu tradition. So these hugging gurus, you go to them and they maybe hug 2,000 people in one night as an expression of love. That's one type of enlightenment. A second expression from Suzuki Roshi has to do with enlightened activity, being in the present moment, being just who you are. So the Zen, Suzuki Roshi is of the Zen tradition. And we like to say that, we already are awakened. This is not something you have to go out and achieve, but rather it's a matter of recognizing that we are already awakened. So that is an enlightenment activity that we get to. Third teacher that he cited, Thich Nhat Hanh, also in the Zen tradition. Thich Nhat Hanh's definition of enlightenment has to do with mindfulness. So just being mindful every moment in our practice. And then a fourth, the Dalai Lama expresses enlightenment as compassionate blessing. So an example of this is he was at a conference in California, and when he arrived at the conference center, he asked the managers to send out all the people who were involved in preparing for his visit there. And so the service people showed up, the people who made the beds and cleaned the rooms and cooked the meals and all of these kinds of things, cared for the lawns. And he went to each single person and gave them a compassionate blessing. So this is one example of his expression of enlightenment. And Ajahn Chah talks about letting go. If you let go a little, you're going to be a little happy. If you let go a lot, you're going to be a lot happy. Another expression. So I appreciated Jack Kornfield's article giving me sort of these different ways of thinking about or experiencing enlightenment. And there's another modern author, Dale White, who has a book on enlightenment. And he says basically that one size does not fit all. So it's back to this idea of enlightenment, plural. And he says that for each of us, it's something that's very personal. One of the practices that Dale White recommends is inquiry, deep inquiry, as a method of waking up. That we do this every time we ask sort of deep questions about our lives, such as, what kind of life should I be living? You could look at that as that's part of this quest for waking up. What kind of community should we create together? If all beings are Buddha and I'm a Buddha, how should I be in the world? Interesting questions to ponder. And so In a moment, I'm going to ask us to ponder one or two of these questions. But I wanted to sort of end this section about different conceptions of enlightenment with Osamu Sun, our founder in the Zen tradition. He has brought to us wisdom, which is now becoming very cherished, song of meditation, which if you listen carefully, you can sort of hear the spirit of enlightenment or aspects of enlightenment. So I'm going to chant it for you now. And so even though I haven't memorized, I like to always have it handy just in case. And if you know this, please feel free to join me. But please sit with your hands in Hapchan and listen to this song of meditation. Song of meditation, sit still, rest. You're one with all beings insentient, rocks, trees, mountains, rivers, clouds, sky. Breathe, concentrate. You're one with all beings sentient, birds, animals, insects, worms, fish, humans. Arise from meditation with live Wadu and meditation light. Streets, workplace, markets, travels are Dharma realms. Wadu is your tool to gain the single eye of wisdom. Its life comes from sincere heart and unknowing mind, non-self, boundless heart, and first mind, the three ingredients in unknowing mind. Unknowing mind is a splendid world of infantile brilliance. Be a little dumb, pure, and innocent to enter this world, so you may cry without bitterness, laugh like the morning sun. Like Dharma rain, Wadu embedded with unknowing mind soaks your daily activities. Tears flow from skyscrapers, wooden men rise to dance, and flowers bloom on highway signs. We, song of Shiva, remind you enlightenment is instantly present in the mind of the beginner. Birth, death, and nirvana are always in harmony. Seeking or attaining enlightenment is the defeat of meditation practice. If such thoughts occur, wake up from ignorance, frightened as if swallowing poison. Each time you sit, you are a new beginner. The presence of awakened heart in the first mind is vast and infinite. There is no birth, no death, and no nirvana. Repent to surrender yourself if you have obstacles. Bow and perform prostrations if you have doubts. Do constant practice fresh in this moment if you lose beginner's mind. Here is a song for your everyday Dharma life. Meditation is knowing yourself. Knowing yourself is setting yourself free from delusions. Setting yourself free from delusions is becoming one with what is. Becoming one with what is enjoying formless life every day. Enjoying formless life is seeing yourself everywhere in happiness and sorrow. Serve all beings as Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Protect water, soil, and clean air. Praise the way of Buddha. Sangam. I'm always inspired by be a little dumb, pure, and innocent to enter this world. Sort of a nice way to um, start thinking about enlightenment. So now my question to you is, what does it mean to you to wake up in everyday life? And I'm going to give you an example, and then I invite you to give your own examples or thoughts on this. So I'm kind of a planner. Um, I'm always, thinking about what's next, and um, so planning is very future oriented. And if I think about waking up, that's very present oriented. So the question is, how do I be present with planning? So this morning on Sunday morning, we have an early service. And then after early service, we get ready for the 10 o'clock service and have breakfast together and things like this. So while I'm sitting in meditation, being present and not thinking about the future, I, of course, am planning. So this morning, as I was sitting in meditation, I was thinking about, it's snow. And so that needs to be added to the checklist of things to do to get ready for service. And should I end service a little early so there's time to do that? Things like this. And at the same time, I had some resentments arising because only one person came to service this morning. And so okay, so now we have to divide that workload among us and things like this. And so resentments do not feel like a very awakened state to me. So how do I let go of those resentments in my waking up process? And I found what helped was just coming back to the breath. That always makes me more present. And then as I'm planning, to think about who will be coming to service and why I am doing this. And so it's always joyful to have the whole song with you. And so then I can imagine all of you being here and us sharing this time together and chewing the fat about this topic of enlightenment. So those are two things that pushed me a little bit more in the direction of being present and awake than the usual catching up in the checklist. So that's my mundane everyday example. And now I invite you to comment on what does it mean to you to wake up in everyday life? And maybe you just like something in the song of meditation that you heard.
So I like the part in the song of meditation that talked about meditation is knowing yourself. And I think we had our family, my side of the family's Christmas last night because we delayed it because of some sickness. And like sitting around, I think there's always, I don't know, like a need to do something, whether that's eating or like, exerting yourself socially and being kind of, I don't know, holding sort of being somebody or finding things to talk about or whatever. having a plan for it. And I think last night I kind of just sort of sat and like listened to people and like was kind of with them and not feeling the need to kind of do something and be somebody, but just kind of listen and be present with people. And it I don't know, it allowed me to appreciate people that maybe I don't always appreciate in ways that I don't always find. So I think that was very much like a kind of in a way like letting go of the self, but also just kind of being present with who I am and where I am, and led me to kind of just have a different experience with people, and maybe finding a little bit more love with people that I know well, but can experience again for the first time.
Well, I think being enlightened means taking your show on the road. I think when I first started this, there was my practice and there was my life. And I think the more my practice becomes my life, the more I aim towards enlightenment. We recently did a guided meditation at our recovery program where Roshi Joan Halifax asked this question: what would it be like to live a life of service, free from attachment to identity or outcome? And I think, wow, what would that be like? And then I hear the words from the Song of Meditation: each day, each time I sit, I am a new beginner. And I think, wow, I keep getting more and more chances to get this right. So that's my take on enlightenment.
I've been finding recently to wake up feels like being not goal oriented. I understand a lot of people's desires for me to have goals and to be working towards goals, and a historical sense of myself also taking up that process. But I've been finding that every day when I wake up, I know what I need to do without needing to have a goal in mind. And every moment throughout the day, I know what it is I need to be doing. And having goals is kind of taking me outside of my knowledge of what I need to be doing.
Yeah, I had a strange experience yesterday. My wife and I are fairly new to town. We moved from Panama to Ann Arbor, so we didn't have a lot of stuff. But I'm finding that changes very quickly, especially in a colder climate. And my mom had brought a box of memorabilia from when I was but a young warthog. And as I was going through it yesterday, I found this sketchbook. And the first couple pages, it was from when I was like 8 years old or something like that. And it really only had sketches on the first like 5 pages of the book maybe, and the rest was blank. And my first thought was like, oh man, I can't, touch this object for some reason because it's so old. But on my list of new things to buy and consume and accumulate was a notebook, because I wanted to get back into sketching. And I just realized, like, well, I have a notebook. I just started it when I was 8, and I guess I'll probably fill it up when I'm 33. And so I guess I don't know if this is right, but it felt like waking up was realizing what I had in my own house. Yeah.
I had a experience recently. Last month, I was on a flight, and I sat next to this young couple going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, and I was feeling like, wow, this is so amazing for you guys. Like, I was really, really happy. And then before I got to think of it, the person in front of the guy backed up her seat before takeoff, and he got really angry and really upset and started calling her the C word and kicking the seat and all kinds of things. And we started calming down, and the girlfriend or whatever was really upset as well. And I was just thinking to myself, back to the Buddha's message about suffering and enlightenment is it just nothing can ever make you happy. It's not more right than ever right there. That's really as much there is, beauty in all the experiences we can have. It just, like whatever desires it may fulfill, it'll never do it. Nothing. Traveling or people, and it's just, yeah.
Many years ago, I studied with two different teachers, one of whom was a priest from a temple in Hawaii, and one of whom was a Tibetan expat. And they both touched on the same thing in very different ways, which is that the feeling in the moment of enlightenment can come in a lot of different ways. A guy from Hawaii said that in his experience, it was often taught that reaching enlightenment feels like being hit in the back of the head with an incense stick. And the guy from Tibet said that in his experience, it was often taught that reaching enlightenment felt like a sudden sense of connection with the ground and the world around you, almost as if it was rumbling. On the subject of awakening, nothing so high-minded as enlightenment. I usually get to work really early, and so I feel like I wake up while I'm already doing my job in the middle of the day. And the experience of waking up depends a lot on context for me. In the middle of the morning, when I wake up at work, it kind of feels like getting hit in the back of the head with an incense stick. And in the middle of the morning at temple, it usually feels like suddenly being very well connected to the floor.
So I've been thinking about the part about awakening, or being born again and again and again and again and again and again. I'm a teacher. I've been teaching children in public education for decades, and I don't have children of my own in my own family. So one interesting thing that I've noticed is I don't get any older. And the reason why is because every single year, the group of students that I have are always 7. So for decades, I've just been with 7-year-olds. If I had my own children, they would go from 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10. So one idea in my head is, oh, I'm not getting any older. But about awakening, And I know enough about 7-year-olds now that I know this is what 7-year-olds are like in September. And I know what they're going to be like when they come back from Christmas break. And I know what they're going to be like in June. And none of those students in all those decades was exactly the same individual, but I know enough about how those 7-year-olds move through the 10 months that I have with them every year that there's some rebirth. I just keep thinking about the rebirth again and again and again and again and again. And I get better every year. I get better every year at watching that development and guiding it and being a mentor and keeping them safe. Yeah, that's just what I've been thinking about as people have been sharing. So thank you.
So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. It's really interesting to hear all these different expressions of enlightenment that we have. And I don't know, it makes me feel more interconnected to all of you and everyone. So thank you. Yeah, let's leave it here today. Let's say the 4 great vows and then we'll have some announcements. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Welcome, everybody. Good morning. It's good to see so many people here today. And if you have questions after the service, you can ask any of us wearing gray, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. If you'd like to get our weekly email bulletin, there's a sign-up sheet on the table, and you can put your email address down, and we'll send you a bulletin once a week about events going on at the temple. You can also pick up a copy of our winter schedule, which looks like this. This flyer's on the table, and it has different events coming up. So the one big event, which I want to mention because it's happening at this service a week from today, at the 10 a.m. service, is a birthday party for our senior teacher, Haju Sunam. She's going to be 80 years old. And so we're going to celebrate her birthday during the 10 a.m. service with all the kids here and everything. We're going to open up these doors. And so some things for that. Joe Riley is going to be performing. He's going to be playing guitar and singing. One of our members is going to be doing a little dance performance. If you have a performance, if you have a song that you'd like to sing or something like that, you can email us or let us know after the service and we'll get you on the list. If you'd like to bring a snack, that would be wonderful. And also, if you'd like to bring a card for Haji, we're going to have a basket where we're collecting all the cards. And so that'll be at the 10 a.m. service a week from today. And then we offer our introductory meditation course from time to time. It runs on 5 consecutive Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. The next 5-week session will be beginning this Thursday, January 11th. And we're also offering an overnight session with all the same information, which will be Friday, January 19th from 7 p.m.
I'm sorry, that's in this one. It's the 26th and 27th.
26th and 27th. Friday, 26th from 7 p.m. until Saturday at noon. And then yoga classes resume this Tuesday. We have yoga classes from 6:30 to 8 o'clock in the evening. And so in preparation for yoga resuming, please help us after the service to get these mats and cushions stacked up in the corner. We're gonna keep the mats and cushions which are touching the carpet, we'll keep them here. But all of the other ones behind it, we're going to stack in that back corner. And we'll put the cushions on the shelf back there. And then Recovery Dharma is meeting today, I believe at noon.
We'll meet at noon in the library of the historic food hall.
In the library of the historic temple, the yellow building next door. And then, as Mo mentioned, Buddha's Enlightenment Sitting is going to be held on Friday, January 19th from 8 p.m. until Saturday, January 20th at 4 a.m. So the 3 sessions that you can show up for are for 8 to 10 p.m. or 10 to midnight or midnight to 4 a.m. And if you come from midnight to 4 a.m., we can go outside, look for the morning star, and enjoy some delicious gruel. And let's see. The temple is supported entirely by your kind donations of time and money. There's a fishbowl right outside the store for our monetary donations. If you'd like to volunteer your time, a good time slot to do that is on Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. Also, if you'd like to sign up to shovel snow, let us know. We'll get you on the list for snow shoveling, and we'll probably give you a call the day before we expect a major snowstorm. And you can be out there shoveling with other Sangha members. And then please join us for tea. We have some lemon ginger herbal tea.
Okay, thank you. So let's all stand and we'll conclude with 3 formal vows.
Good morning.
Oh, the limes, not yet. I tried having 84 pounds. But like, the ones that are trying to move too fast are the ones that I'm washing without realizing, oh, wait. So now that I realize, wait, I haven't washed very hard. They're all in my garage, so it's really big.
Good to see you, though. You too. How was your experience with your friend? Oh, that's really nice.
Oh, no, actually, they actually use the oil and lime skin side of this compost. Yeah. Look it up.
That's a good deal. I just got shot. Yeah.
But it's a good exercise.